Hi everyone, today's lesson from Unit 4.1 is Notes number 3, all about areas of parallelograms, trapezoids, and triangles. In a parallelogram, we can find the area by just taking the base and multiplying it by the height. And notice that this is the same formula that we used for area of a rectangle. Just note that the height is the perpendicular distance between the two bases in the parallelogram. Okay, so it's not the side of the parallelogram, but it's this perpendicular distance. In a trapezoid, we find the area by taking 1/2 the sum of the two bases, so you add up the lengths of the two bases, multiply it by 1/2, and then multiply it by the height. In a triangle, the formula is 1/2 times the base times the height. And again, the height must be perpendicular to a side of the triangle. For our first question, it says the parallelogram has a base with length 5 centimeters and a height of 16. We want to find the area. So simple enough, we can just go ahead and do area equals base times height because it's a parallelogram. We're going to take 5 and multiply it by 16. And we end up with the area being 80 centimeters squared. Don't forget your units on your final answer. Remember that area is measured in square units. Okay, in our second example here it says find the area of a trapezoid. So first thing I would do is write down the formula for area of a trapezoid. So it's 1/2 times b1 plus b2 times the height. So area is equal to 1/2 times 7 plus 12 times 6. So area is equal to 1/2 of 19 times 6. Now you can do 1/2 of 19, or you could do 1/2 of 6, or you can go ahead and multiply 19 times 6 and then take half of it. Okay, so no matter what order you do this in, we're going to end up with 57 square centimeters. Again, don't forget your units. In our third example, we're asked to find the area of an isosceles triangle with legs each equal to 10 centimeters and a base of 16 centimeters. Okay, this one would be easier to think about if we had a picture. So remember that an isosceles triangle has at least two congruent sides. So I'm going to say each of these sides is 10 centimeters, and this base right here is 16 centimeters. So what we don't have is the height. So for the area of a triangle, we need that height because our formula is 1/2 times the base times the height. So if I just take a second to draw in the height, remember that's perpendicular to the base. When you draw in that altitude or that height in an isosceles triangle, it bisects this side. So each of these little segments would be equal to 8. So we can use this little right triangle to solve for the height. So we need to use the Pythagorean theorem. So we're looking at one of these little right triangles. We're going to say that the height squared plus 8 squared is equal to 10 squared. So height squared plus 64 equals 100. When you subtract 64 from both sides, we get the height squared equals 36. And then just take the square root of both sides. So we end up with h equals 6. So we have the height, we have the base, put those numbers into the formula for the area of this triangle. So I'm going to do 1/2 times 16 for the base times 6 for the height. So half of 16 would be 8 times that 6. We get the area of this whole triangle is 48 square centimeters. In our fourth example, it says find the area of a rectangle with length 4 inches and a diagonal of 6 inches. So again, area equals base times height. So let's draw a picture because we are given the base. We'll call this the base and say it's 4 inches. But we're not given the height. Okay, we're given the diagonal as 6 inches. So let's call this the height, h. And again, because it's a rectangle, and if we draw a diagonal, that diagonal divides the rectangle into two right triangles. So we're going to use the Pythagorean theorem to solve for that height. Okay, if we set it up in the Pythagorean theorem, we have h squared plus 4 squared is equal to 6 squared, or height squared plus 16 is equal to 36. So the height squared is equal to 20 after you subtract 16 from both sides. And then we need to take the square root. Okay, don't write it as a decimal. Instead, take the square root of 20 and factor it into 4 times 5. We want simplest radical form. So square root of 4 gives us 2, square root of 5 for the height. Okay, back to the formula for the area of the rectangle. It is base times height. So we're going to take 4, and we're going to multiply it by 2, square root of 5. And we get 8 square root of 5 square inches. Leave your answer in simplest radical form. In our last 3 questions, we're going to approach these in a slightly different way. It says the area of a figure is given, find the missing side for each figure. In number 5, it says find the length of the base of a parallelogram with a height of 6 centimeters and an area of 78 square centimeters. Start off with your formula for area of a parallelogram, which is area equals base times height. Plug in the area for A, so 78 is equal to base times the height of 6 centimeters. And then we're solving for the base, so we need to take and divide both sides by 6. So 78 divided by 6 leaves us with 13. And we need to put centimeters on our final answer. Don't forget the units again. So our base of this parallelogram, 13 centimeters. Okay, and number 6, this is find the height of a trapezoid with an area of 72 square inches and the sum of the bases equal to 12 inches. So start off with your formula. Area of a trapezoid is 1/2 times the sum of the bases, b1 plus b2, times the height. Okay, we know the area is 72, so write 72 equals 1/2. Now in here we're not told the bases individually, but we are told that the sum of the bases is equal to 12 inches, so just put 12 in there for b1 plus b2, and then we're solving for the height. So take half of that 12, we get 6 times the height, and then just take and divide both sides by 6. 72 divided by 6 leaves us with 12. And the units on there, inches. Okay, in our final example, it says find the base of a triangle with an area of 125 square feet and a height of 10 feet. So again, start with your formula. Formula for the area of a triangle is area equals 1/2 times the base times the height. Plug in what you know. We know the area is 125. We don't know the base, but we do know the height is 10. Okay, because this is multiplication, you can change the order and do 1/2 times 10 times b to make it a little bit easier. So half of 10 gives us 5. So 125 equals 5 times the base. Take and divide both sides by 5. So 125 divided by 5 gives us 25, and the units will be feet. So the base length is 25 feet. Okay, good luck on the homework, and as always, make sure you speak up and ask your teacher questions if you need help.